Good morning. Aloha. It is so great to be here with you and on the stage with these three badass ladies. I was thinking this morning about how incredible it is, and I'm grateful that I'm sure there are many of you who I've met in different parts of the country. I was telling Tiffany this morning, wherever I go, odds are there is a Moms for Liberty group or a whole tribe in the room sounding off loud and proud. And it's so incredible because this is where change happens. I started thinking about my mom. She was the first person in our family who ran for office. She is like the OG Mom for Liberty. She homeschooled, my parents homeschooled all 5 of us kids at home growing up in Hawaii. And what she saw in our public schools back in 2000 was the beginning of what is now happening all across the country in broad daylight. Back then, she saw how wrong it was that in public schools across the state of Hawaii, they wanted to put out surveys to kids in grade school, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, about what their sexuality is. She raised us not to be complainers, but to be problem solvers, and she led by example. So she stepped up to run for Board of Education. In Hawaii, we have one statewide Board of Education, so it was a statewide race and a statewide campaign. She's a school teacher by trade and training, an entrepreneur at heart, and she went out there and started doing the grassroots work that so many of you are doing across the country. And like you have heard in each of these testimonies on the stage, and like I know each of you have your own testimonies, she was excoriated. She was attacked. I remember I was a teenager at the time. We were standing with her in Hawaii. When you run for office, you've got a sign with your name on it, and you wave at the traffic as people are driving by. And so our family was out there, of course, supporting my mom in doing so. And there were counter Carol Gabbard protesters across the street, yelling all kinds of slurs and names at her. And once we were all about to pack up, us and them, when the traffic had died down, they crossed the street over to where we were. And one of them looked at me, spat at my feet, and said, "Look at you, you princess of hate." I mention that story because it is so important to remember as we face these challenges, as we face these attacks, as we face these hardships, both personal or professional, as you have people literally spewing hatred in your face or online, that we remember our purpose and why we are doing what we are doing, and that there is no force more powerful than love. That is what motivates us. It is love for our kids. It is our love and appreciation for and celebration of liberty, that we can gather in rooms like this, that we can go online, that we can and should be able to have this vibrant, open discussion and marketplace of ideas. That you as a parent might make decisions for your child that's different from another person. This is America. The fact that we have people in the most powerful positions in our government who are every day taking steps to erode that freedom, both nationally, at a statewide level, and locally, violates the core fundamental principles of who we are as a country and who we are as Americans. And that, to me, that is what is on the line in this election, specifically as we head into these final, I think it's 67, 68 days before November 5th. People are going to start voting here in just a few weeks in a lot of states with early voting. The message I'm carrying across the country is that this is not about left versus right or Democrat versus Republican. This is not about where you stand on health care or where you stand on, how do we solve the homeless challenges in our country? There is something that is far greater at stake that we have to remain focused on. just as our founders did when they wrote those founding documents. They had fierce and public debates and disagreements on a whole bunch of things. They weren't afraid to hide it. But they came together around the core fundamental principles that define who we are and what makes this country the greatest country in the world. And those are the principles of freedom and liberty. This is our opportunity, and this is why I'm hopeful in spite of all of the forces of darkness and evil that surround us. The reason why they are escalating their tactics is because they're terrified of us. And so for all the attacks that Moms for Liberty gets, and I read about a lot of them, they show up in the headlines, and I laugh a little bit when I see them on the news because I know you guys. And the way they paint you, it's like, oh my gosh. But take that as a badge of honor and a pat on the back, because that means you are scaring them. And I encourage you to do what my parents have done. My dad's a state senator in Hawaii right now, and what they have showed me through their example is that in the face of hatred and darkness, be strong. Wear that armor of love and know that they are weak because they are driven by fear. Love is the most powerful thing. Love is what drives a soldier to go and lay his or her life down in war to defend our freedom. Love is what drives a fireman to go and run into a burning building to save someone's life, knowing that they may have to give up theirs. Love is what would drive a parent to go and grab their kid out of the middle of the street, knowing that they may be hit by a car and if their child may live. Love is the most powerful force that will allow us to prevail in this fight for freedom. And love is what has the power to welcome more people into this cause of freedom. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
All of the women on the stage have chosen to walk away from the Democrat Party. And we have just been witness to RFK endorsing President Trump. He wasn't given a free opportunity to be able to run for president. And then he chose to support President Trump because he would like to make America great again and healthy again. And so, Tulsi, I'll start with you. Just give us a little bit of a snapshot of what it was like for you to make the decision to leave the Democrat Party and really some of the policies and things you're seeing now that you're very concerned about.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. We've talked a lot and heard from all of you some of the different reasons that ultimately drove me to leave the Democrat Party, but I want to expand a bit on something that you talked about, Tiffany, which is we have seen how, and I've experienced how the Democrat Party has become, no matter how much they say they're inclusive, they are very exclusive, how they force compliance and conformity, that if you don't toe the line, then not only are you not welcome, they will try to destroy you in every way, shape, or form. But that's just the first steps. Like, okay, well, that is no longer the big tent party that welcomes people from all walks of life. But what's the alternative? And this is a question that I get asked most often from people is, how do I have a conversation with either a family member, a loved one, a colleague, or friend who doesn't quite see the truth? And this is such an important point for each of us to reflect on, is how do we create a welcoming environment? How do you actually truly have a conversation where we're not just talking at someone saying, here's what's wrong, here's what's right, here's what you got to do and what we got to do, to actually listen and have empathy for wherever someone is coming from, and to get past all of the partisan talking points that are shouted at us on cable TV every day, but actually get down to these core fundamental challenges, thoughts and feelings that are visceral to us as people, as Americans, as moms or dads, as brothers or sisters, and listen and understand where people are coming from, and then share what is in your heart. And if there's one message that I hope all of you take away from me today is don't underestimate your power and your influence as an individual. Yes, together collectively, but as an individual, think about the people in your life. Think about all the people you have. You scroll through your phone. Think about the people who may need a little bit of a nudge or who may not be opening or widening their aperture enough to see what's really going on in our country. People who know you, who trust you, who care about you, and who you care about. Those are the conversations that we need to be having, and recognizing that, yeah, of course, we're all going to have some disagreements. I guarantee every one of us on this stage doesn't agree on every single thing. I would love to have conversations, and we should encourage those conversations. But as I mentioned earlier, fundamentally, what are the things that matter most? It is the well-being of our kids. It is the safety of our communities. It is our ability as individuals, as parents, for those of you who are parents, to be able to make the best decision that you can make for yourselves, for your kids, and for your families. And everything else comes after that. That is really what is at the core of what's at stake here. Don't underestimate your influence, your power, sharing your experiences, and opening yourself up and allowing yourselves to be vulnerable to others. Break down those barriers, because you're not going to be able to connect with people unless you're able to open up yourself. We have the ability, and this is why I'm optimistic about the path forward, is this movement is growing very quickly. We have the opportunity to unite our country in a way that has not been done for far too long. That is our opportunity. And it's not going to be done by one single person. We can't just sit back and say, okay, cool, that person is famous or well-known or they're on TV and, who's going to unite our country? Who's going to do it? We are. Every one of us in our own circles of influence, we are the ones who have the power and the ability and the opportunity to bring people together. And that is a constant choice on a daily basis, and a choice to take action every day. That is how we make serious change, and it is at every single level in our country.
Thank you, Tulsi.